What if I told you the most powerful tech companies in the world are quietly abandoning China? Not slowly, not partially, but in a shift so massive, it could reshape the global economy forever. Factories are moving, billions are relocating, and a new country is rising fast, Vietnam. But here's the real question. Why now? And what do they know that you don't? Stay with me, because this changes everything. For over 30 years, China wasn't just part of the global economy. It was the global economy. If you've ever used a smartphone, a laptop, even basic electronics, there's a high chance it passed through China. Companies like Apple, Intel, Samsung built trillion-dollar empires on one foundation: China's manufacturing machine. Cheap labor, massive infrastructure, unmatched scale. China could build faster, cheaper, and bigger than anyone else. And for a long time, there was no competition. But that dominance came with a hidden risk. A risk no one wanted to admit. Because the entire world was depending on one system, one country, one supply chain. And then, everything broke. The pandemic didn't just slow things down. It exposed a dangerous truth. Factories shut overnight. Ports froze. Supply chains collapsed. Products disappeared. And companies started losing billions. But the real shock wasn't the disruption. It was the realization. The world had become too dependent on China. And dependence is dangerous, because when one system controls everything, any disruption becomes a global crisis. That's when tech leaders started asking a question that would change everything. What if China is no longer the safest place to build the future? At the same time, something bigger was happening. A silent war. Not with weapons, but with technology. The United States began restricting China's access to advanced semiconductor chips. China responded. Tensions escalated. Trade wars intensified. And suddenly, companies found themselves trapped in the middle. Stay in China and risk political pressure, tariffs, and restrictions. Leave China and risk losing the most powerful manufacturing system ever built. It was a lose-lose situation. But behind closed doors, executives weren't waiting. They were planning. Because this wasn't just about cost anymore. It was about survival. Why are the world's biggest tech CEOs suddenly pivoting their billions away from traditional manufacturing hubs and toward Vietnam? This isn't random. It's not temporary. It's a calculated shift. The global hierarchy is being dismantled in real time. And if you think the old guard still controls the future of chips, then you're missing the most aggressive power play in modern tech history. For decades, power in tech was predictable. Silicon Valley designed. Taiwan manufactured. China assembled. That was the system. Stable, efficient, untouchable. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. Silicon Valley and Taipei grew complacent. They assumed their dominance was permanent, unshakable. But while they were looking the other way, Vietnam was building something quietly, strategically, relentlessly. Hanoi isn't just joining the supply chain, they're rewriting the rules of the Silicon frontier. And in doing so, they're leaving established giants in the rearview mirror. Vietnam wasn't supposed to lead. But it adapted faster, moved smarter, and played the long game. First, labor, young, skilled, cost-effective. Second, geography, right next to China, close enough to maintain supply chains, but far enough to avoid political risk. Third, strategy. Vietnam didn't wait. It actively invited tech giants in. Tax incentives, trade agreements, infrastructure expansion. And the results? Massive. Apple suppliers began shifting production. Samsung turned Vietnam into a major manufacturing hub. Intel expanded operations. Factories that once defined China's dominance started appearing in Vietnam, slowly at first, then all at once. So stop calling Vietnam just an assembly line, because that's outdated thinking. While the West struggles with legacy systems, and China faces increasing pressure, Hanoi has engineered something far more powerful, a high-tech coup. They've outmaneuvered rivals, attracted global capital, and positioned themselves at the center of the next industrial revolution. This isn't evolution, it's disruption. The era of traditional semiconductor dominance is no longer guaranteed. And for the first time in decades, a new titan is rising. This shift isn't just about business. It's about power. Because semiconductors control everything. Phones, cars, AI, military systems. Whoever controls chips controls the future. If Vietnam continues this rise, it won't just compete, it could reshape global influence. But here's the twist. Vietnam isn't replacing China. Not yet. China still dominates advanced manufacturing. What we're seeing isn't a replacement, it's a diversification. A backup plan. A strategic reset. So the question isn't whether companies are leaving China. They already are. The real question is, who wins next? Because this isn't just a shift, it's a global reset, and we're watching it happen in real time. If you want more deep breakdowns like this, subscribe, because the next shift might be even bigger.